Who are you, Joshua Weissman? Almost 8 million subscribers, 2 published books, and it figures you're only 26? I mean, how do you do that? And why do you call yourself Puppy? And most importantly, who eats all of the leftovers from your huge feasts? It's time to find out on The Recipe Detective, the show where we take a deep dive into the humble beginnings of your favorite YouTube chefs and cooks. I'm Lisa, engineer, cook, and your detective for today. So let's get started. Our story starts with one Joshua Weissman, born in Los Angeles, California in 1996. Now, he mentions falling in love with cooking as early as the age of 3 when his mother brought him into the kitchen. Unfortunately, as he grew older, he kind of lost his touch with cooking, and this ended up in him gaining a significant amount of weight, as he mentioned it, around 100 pounds. He often mentions being bullied as a kid. I mean, you know how kids are, especially when you're overweight. And he really tried following every kind of diet and exercise on the market, but he didn't really get any sustainable results. Eventually, what really helped him lose all of that weight was rediscovering his love for food and cooking. He stopped eating processed food and he started cooking at home. And eventually he followed a paleo diet, which was eventually what helped him lose about 100 pounds. This wasn't, however, the end of it, because pretty quickly he realized that being overly aware of your nutrition and diet and lifestyle can be its own problem, often referred to as orthorexia. But luckily, he quickly learned that he could introduce more carbs and even treats and snacks and follow a healthier and more balanced daily routine. He documented the entire progress in a blog called the Slim Palate, and eventually he took the best recipes from his blog and published them in the book carrying the same name when he was only 17, and that's in 2013. Now this brings us to 2014, where Joshua finally started his YouTube channel. Now, I had to click all the way back in his YouTube video history to find this, but his first video was a promotion for his book, and it's really surprising to see the young Joshua really different from how we know him today, really skinny and shy, promoting his book by traveling to the countryside and sharing his creative process while developing the book. And this is where my detective skills kicked in. I mean, how did he get from being this 17-year-old shy boy to the meteoric success that we know today? Once again, almost 8 million subscribers, 2 published books, 2 streaming nominations. I had to find out what his strategy was. So I did what I know how to do best. I got the data. I watched all of his videos, I watched his interviews, I found and read his books, and I also downloaded the metadata from all of his videos from the YouTube API, as well as all of the transcripts for his video. Now that data was intriguing, because his second video was uploaded only about a year after the first one, and it was a recipe for paleo cookies. Now these cookies were flour-free and processed sugar-free. He was using coconut sugar instead. But those cookies were great examples to show his approach back then. You can combine healthy eating with some indulgence. He started posting regularly in 2018, and he uploaded about 50 videos that year. His earlier videos focus on bread and fermentation. Anecdotally, or maybe not, these are the 2 first chapters of his latest book. And you can start seeing his style as we know him today, especially the speaking to the cupboard, and picking up his more energetic style of presentation. His channel really took off in 2019. That's when he reached the 100,000 subscriber marker. 6 months after that, he quit his job at Uchiko, a 2 Michelin star restaurant in Texas, and moved on to do YouTube full-time.
What does it feel like to have quit your job and basically be building this thing?
In 2020, that's when his upload schedule really picked up. He started uploading around 10 videos a month, and very quickly he passed the 1 million marker, 2 million marker, and eventually he hit 3 million during 2020. Now that's a meteoric rise from 100,000 subscribers in 2019 to freaking 3 million subscribers by the end of 2020. Once YouTube was his full-time job, he started basing his uploads on few ongoing series. The first one was But Better, where he tried to improve on classic recipes with fancy ingredients. Then, in 2020, he added but cheaper, where he tried to make fancy recipes with cheaper ingredients. And the latter addition to this group was But Faster, where he kind of gamified the concept and he tries to prepare a dish while his friend goes and fetches it from a fast food restaurant. Around that time is when he started diversifying his content. He started collaborating with other famous YouTubers such as Binging with Babish, Roy Choi, and even his girlfriend as of 2022, because we don't really know that much about his personal life. Recently, in 2022, he even started uploading YouTube Shorts, increasing his upload frequency to up to 17 videos a month. And he even started uploading more gamified content as if he's trying to compete with Mr. Beast. Some of these moves have been controversial, especially if you look at his subreddit. But according to Joshua, he is planning some really big changes in 2023, so I'm really excited to see what's to come. Now, before we get to cooking, I only have to answer 2 more questions. The first one, is it just me, or are his videos getting faster and faster with time? And the second one, why does he call himself Papa? Now, it seems like the answer for the first question is surprisingly yes. I analyzed the number of words he says per minute in all of his videos, and it seems like the number has been increasing year after year, and overall, it has increased by 40%, so his videos are getting faster. Is it only that? Maybe it's also his editing style that hasn't become faster and faster with a lot of cutscenes. I don't know, that would be much more complicated to find out, but if you're feeling like his videos are getting faster, you're definitely right. And as for the second question, I couldn't find any explanation for why he called himself Papa, but what I could find is that the first time he called himself that was in a video in 2020 when he was making chicken parmesan, and he hasn't stopped calling himself Papa ever since.
Don't worry, Papa's got you.
If anyone can clarify to me why he calls himself Papa, please put it down in the comments. But in the meanwhile, let's get to cooking. Now, with the kitty off the table, let's get to reproducing one of Joshua's first recipes. And the reason why we're not recreating the first recipe is because that was a recipe for coffee. But the second recipe was one for flour-free, processed sugar-free chocolate chip cookies. And if you do think about it, it makes a lot of sense, as Joshua was pretty health conscious when he started his channel. And this recipe uses a couple of less conventional ingredients, ones you might not have in your pantry, such as raw almond butter and coconut sugar. I had to go out and get them. But other than that, it was a pretty conventional recipe. I added 1.5 eggs, some salt, some baking soda, some vanilla, and I combined them using a spatula into this chunky cookie dough. I must say that this recipe is on the expensive side. The almond butter and the coconut sugar are definitely not cheap. So that's why I also went ahead and I splurged on the most expensive organic 85% cocoa chocolate they had in store. And this brings my cost per cookie to $2 per cookie. That's not a cheap recipe in my book. Now, unfortunately, I also didn't listen to Papa, and I placed all 9 cookies on the same baking tray. And of course, they did end up expanding a lot and smushing into each other. But luckily not too much, so I could separate them once they were done. Now, right out of the oven, these cookies were super soft to the touch. I couldn't really move them around, but in a couple of minutes they stabilized. I could sprinkle them with flaky salt and get them off the tray. Please ignore the burnt cookie in the corner, that's on me. I definitely put too many of them on one tray. Now, as for flavor, this is phenomenal. The sweetness, the saltiness, the chewiness of these cookies was fantastic, and I had to go and recreate his next recipe, which was using these cookies to create an ice cream sandwich. And with that ice cream sandwich in hand and in our mouth, we're going to say goodbye to the first episode of The Recipe Detective. So if you like this content, please like, subscribe, follow us on social media, and most importantly, hit us up in the comments which famous chef, cook, YouTuber we should be looking into next. So in the meanwhile, I'm Lisa, this is The Recipe Detective, and I'll see you next time. Bye!